Hey, it's Dave Wyman from Bob, Dave, and More. It's time for Football 101. Seahawks with another big win over the Cowboys. They're 3-0 now, and so let's take a look at the defense. Now, I know a lot of people, there's lots of news about, look, they're giving up lots of yards, and this is almost historic numbers that you're looking at defensively. They're giving up 500 yards, almost 497 per game. And by my count, they've given up 64 10-plus yard plays. So these are huge chunk plays that they're giving up. And that just, it's about 27% of the plays are going for more than 10 yards. So that needs to get fixed. But the good news, I know nobody wants to hear this, but let's talk about a couple of things the Seahawks did well. And one of them on defense. One of them is they're number 2 against the run. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, that's because people are just going to pass on them because they see that. But this is something they didn't do well last year. And they're doing it a lot better this year. They actually held Ezekiel Elliott to 2.9 yards per touch. So he had, I think, 6 catches, 10 carries, and he really didn't do much. So they were able to control the run game. The other thing is they're number 2 in takeaways. They've got 6 takeaways right now. They're +4 in turnover ratio. And remember, this is how they survived last year. This is how they won 12 games last year. They gave up lots of yards, but they did take the ball away. They had 32 takeaways, and that was 3rd in the NFL. So they survived on that. They're surviving on it right now. And one thing to think, and I don't want to, bring the offense into it because they're doing a great job. But if you think about it, the Seahawks offense, if you hadn't had a fluky interception by Greg Olsen, which I don't think that'll ever happen, it hits him in the hands and ends up a pick 6 going the other way. I don't think that's going to happen again. And then the other thing is DK Metcalf didn't secure the ball going across the goal line against the Cowboys. Those are the 2 giveaways that they have. So they'd be +6 in turnover ratio. But we're not going to criticize the offense because they're killing it right now. But let's look at, this is the first quarter, 6:39, and this is a safety. And able to get a tackle in the end zone on Zeke Elliott, and the Seahawks defense just did a really good job at the point of attack, and a couple of players, Brian Monet, number 92, and then LJ Collier, number 91, has really done a good job. But they had him backed up on about the 1-yard line. I believe if the Cowboys had run this play without the motion, because this is a pre-shift look right here. It's before the Seahawks shifted over, that they probably wouldn't have got a safety. And the reason why is because this is how the Seahawks were lined up, and the play was going this way. They were lined up here, so the nose guard, Brian Monet, his helmet is just on the outside shade of the center. So that makes that a little bit easier block for him there. And then right here, you've got 91 on the line of scrimmage. That's a pretty decent chance of getting that reach block. And then you've got KJ Wright, number 50, who is off the ball. So for this tackle, he's not up on the line of scrimmage, so it's an easier block for him. But again, it's pre-shift because they had a receiver over here. So once they ran him across, then the Seahawks defense shifted. And we'll take a look at what that looked like. First of all, I wrote down no crowd noise because this is important because usually when the defense is on the field, especially when they're backed up, there'd be lots of crowd noise. And in order to get this shift done, Bobby probably would have had to have gone up and slapped the guy on the side of the rear end just to get him to move over because, there's so much noise, you can't even yell loud enough to shift guys. But Bobby gets the shift done, no crowd noise, and gets it done really well. And, we talk about how it's a game of inches. And in this case, it certainly was because Brian Monet, I mentioned he was lined up just outside. His helmet was on the outside shoulder pad of the center. Now he's fully in the gap. That was only about a 6-inch move, but it made all the difference in the world. The other thing for LJ Collier, he moves to the outside, so now this is a more difficult block for this tackle on the line of scrimmage. And so what happens, Bobby gets everybody shifted over because of that motion that ends up here. And again, if they hadn't done that, I don't know if they get a safety, but the guy that really makes a play here, well, let's start with LJ Collier, and he's been a hero this year. Guy, first-round draft choice last year, didn't play a whole lot, wasn't very effective. This year he's made a bunch of big plays, including the goal line stand last week against the Patriots. But he does a really good job of stoning this offensive tackle right here, and he just negates that block and just pushes him back. But really the guy that made the play is Brian Monet, because he was over here just a little bit, and this is a really tough reach block for that center to get there. So what Brian does is he gets penetration, and that's what we talked about last week on the goal line with Bobby Wagner, where he gets penetration into the backfield and it disrupts the entire thing. And so Monet pushing the center back here, and he also, we'll take a look at it on film, he gets the guy's shoulders turned. And we've talked about that in the Atlanta Football 101, how it was Quentin Dunbar was able to get the blocker turned. You want to stay square to the line of scrimmage as a blocker, and he ends up getting turned this way, and Monet just pushes him all the way into the backfield. Let's take a look at this on film. Okay, here's your pre-snap look here, and as I mentioned, Monet, his helmet is just right on the outside shade of that center right there, and then here's Collier, here's Bobby Wagner, and once they bring it over in motion, it'll be a different look. But again, I think this is maybe an achievable block right here by this center if they don't shift him. Same with here, and if they can run it inside, this is a little bit more difficult block for the tackle, or easier I should say, on KJ, just because he's off the line of scrimmage. Now you're looking at the post-motion formation defensively. So LJ Collier has kicked out here. So again, that's a little bit tougher block for the tackle right here because the guy's right on the line of scrimmage. And again, LJ does a really good job, as you'll see. And then you see Monet now, and like I said, game of inches. He was lined up here, now he's lined up here. I mean, that probably is about 6 to 8 inches, but it makes all the difference in the world. Now here's the snap, and you can see everybody has a gap, and for them, they need to get this gap right here blocked, and you can see Brian Monet is already starting to win and beat the center, Looney, and beat him across his face, and then Bobby is here in this gap, and LJ Collier really does a good job of setting the edge, so there's nowhere to go outside, so he kind of seals that off. And then right here, this is where all the damage is done right here, where Monet, and I remember we talked about getting your shoulder pads turned sideways, and once this guy's pads are turned this way instead of this way, you're beat. And so Monet just pushes all the way through, and what it ends up doing is tripping up Ezekiel Elliott. You can see his helmet right there, and he wasn't able to get out of the end zone. Big play for the Seahawks. They get 2 points, and the opposing team has to kick it off to them, and they give the ball up again. They have to kick it off from the 20, and this was a big part of the defense. They're making plays, giving up lots of yards, but when the time comes, they're making big plays. Football 101 is brought to you by Heritage Distilling Company, makers of BSB, Brown Sugar Bourbon.